It's big dog season, and you can't stay still because you want it. Mm-hmm. Talk that talk, George. You still scraping your plate because you're hungry. Mm-hmm. Talk that talk.
In our ongoing look at treating substance abuse in America, we turn now to the most commonly used drug and one of the deadliest, alcohol. Drinking kills more Americans every year than opioids or any other illegal drug. But as William Brangham reports, promising treatments that could help people curb their drinking are barely being used.
Do you want a little salad dressing?
Sure. Over the last few years, especially after she retired, Cindy Funke felt like she was drinking too much. She said nobody else noticed, not her husband or their kids, but she did, and she just couldn't stop.
Trying to dial it back on my own was really difficult. I would go through this cycle. So I would drink a little bit too much. Then I would wake up with like, okay, fine, I'm not going to drink for a while. So that night I wouldn't drink. And then it's like 2 days later, it's like, I can have a glass, and it would just set things off again.
And you could never do just one.
I couldn't do just one. It was really difficult to do just one. I would have one would make me want another one. It's like a monkey on my back. It's like, I don't want to be thinking about this all the time.
One day, while driving near her home in Princeton, New Jersey,
you must be 18 to 70 and want to reduce or stop your drinking.
She heard about a study at the University of Pennsylvania that was using a long-acting version of the drug naltrexone to help people curb their drinking.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how come I've never heard of this medication before?
Most practitioners still don't prescribe or perhaps don't even know about drugs like naltrexone.
Addiction psychiatrist Dr. Henry Kranzler was running that study.
She wanted to reduce her drinking. She wanted to be able to drink, quote, normally, meaning having 1 or 2 drinks and stopping. And that is a common complaint that people have, where there's a feed-forward effect among many people who drink 1 or 2 drinks and then go on to drink 5 or 6.
It's estimated that nearly 29 million Americans suffer from alcohol use disorder, but less than 2% receive medication to treat it. Naltrexone is one of 3 drugs approved to help people manage their alcohol use. It blocks the receptors in the body where alcohol attaches, so the pleasurable, rewarding sensations are reduced.
A good analogy is the accelerator and the brake in a car. And if there is a strong accelerator effect and a weak brake effect, you end up drinking much more than you planned or much more than is good for you. And so naltrexone can be thought of as something of a braking mechanism.
That advertisement on public radio is like, do you want to, reduce your drinking? I'm like, yeah.
Funke signed up for the trial. She got her first dose. She wasn't told if it was naltrexone or a placebo, but says she knew immediately.
The very next day, made dinner, and we opened a bottle of Prosecco and sat around. I had a drink, and I knew that I just felt different. Now, all of a sudden, I'm focusing on the conversation with our friends and not thinking about, should I have another one? Oh, I better not have another one. Like, wow, I can't believe I'm not white knuckling anything. I'm enjoying it. This has to be a chemical, physical thing because I'm not thinking my way out of this. I just feel really different.
From that day forward, her relationship with alcohol has totally changed. When the trial ended, she got a daily prescription for naltrexone. It costs $5 a month. She's been on it for less than a year, still has the occasional drink or two, but says that monkey on her back is gone.
Cheers, yeah, cheers.
Drinking alcohol has been linked to a huge number of health risks, including many cancers and heart and liver diseases. In all, about 178,000 Americans are now dying every year from excessive drinking. That's a nearly 30% spike since 2016.
It's really tragic. We have a medication that helps people, and less than 2% probably receive it who could really benefit from it.
Dr. Katie Witkowitz is a psychiatrist at the University of New Mexico, and she runs an addiction center there. She says lack of knowledge among doctors is partly to blame.
There's two misconceptions among providers. One is that providers believe they don't know how to treat substance use disorders, that they don't have the skills or the licensure needed to treat substance use disorders, which is not true. And they think abstinence is the only way, that Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous is the only way. And so providers will just refer their patients to those mutual help groups without even trying to tackle the addiction in their office.
Witkowitz argues this attitude not only harms patients, but it also hinders drug development. She is part of a group that is petitioning the Food and Drug Administration to change its threshold for drug approval.
Right now, the FDA says a viable drug has to prevent any so-called heavy drinking days, which is more than 4 drinks a day for men and more than 3 for women.
So if you look at people coming into alcohol clinical trials looking for a medication, some of them are drinking upwards of 20 drinks a day. I mean, we have people in our samples coming in, people in our studies who are drinking 60, 70 drinks a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And so for them to reduce to 5 drinks or 6 drinks would be a huge success in my book. But according to the FDA, that would be a failure of a medication.
Naltrexone is not a cure-all. It doesn't work for everyone, and a range of studies have demonstrated mixed results on its effectiveness.
It's not like a drug that works for everybody. It clearly does not. And that's why we need more drugs.
But for 74-year-old Stephen Harbin, it did work.
What did alcohol do to your life when you look back on it today?
Well, it eventually destroyed it.
Though it took him decades to admit it, Harbin is an alcoholic. He suffered from depression his entire life and drank heavily for close to 50 years. At his worst, he said it could be 40 to 45 drinks a day. Over the years, his wife urged him repeatedly to get help, but nothing he tried, therapy, Alcoholics Anonymous, none of it worked. And then his wife simply had enough.
When she left me again, I just started drinking even more, which is hard to believe. If I was awake, I drank. And I just said, you know, I think I don't want to do this anymore. And I got my gun out and I loaded it. And I took it and I fired it into the wall. And that's when I decided, okay, I need help.
Now you are feeling more emotions, right? Kind of having more of that, you know, those changes, dealing with them, coping with them.
Harbin went to an addiction clinic run by Dr. Snehal Bhatt, who is the head of addiction psychiatry at the University of New Mexico Medical School.
The things that used to trigger urges no longer affect me.
In addition to psychological counseling, Dr. Bhatt also started Harbin on a long-acting form of naltrexone called Vivitrol to dial back his craving for alcohol. He's now been on it for 4 years.
We know from decades of science in both animals and humans that cravings are one of the biggest reasons why people go back to using a substance, and this medication suppresses it. And secondarily, if I do drink while I'm on it, I don't get as much of a buzz. I don't get as much of a reinforcement.
I just never think about liquor at all.
Is that right?
I don't. I don't have any urges, the things that used to trigger me, you know, which I can't even begin to remember what they were. I did not have a drink from that day forward.
We have these effective interventions, but they're not prescribed, right? At nearly the rate I would like to see. And then the last piece, I wonder, is this siloing that we have in our medical system culturally, where substance use disorders are something else, right? There may be moral weaknesses, there may be things for criminal justice to deal with, but they're not medical problems.
Harbin says he's grateful to have finally found something that helped him get sober, but this time is bittersweet. His decades of alcoholism drove everyone he loved away.
You know, I've been sober now for 4 years, but I don't have anybody to share it with. I've estranged everybody that was in my life.
I want to be in control and be able to enjoy, you know, having a toast like
Cindy Funke Lee is grateful she randomly learned about naltrexone at this point in her life. She recently completed a half marathon and went on vacation to Italy. She says because her drinking isn't always in the back of her mind, she has never felt more present.
I could just enjoy my friends, family, the vacation, and it just not be there in my head all the time. And just that waking up clear-headed, oh my God, it's wonderful. I just feel like I have a lot of my life back. It's very exciting.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm William Brangham.
If you have diabetes or depression, medication might be part of your treatment. But for people suffering from alcohol abuse disorder, medication is rarely prescribed. Ali Rogan reports on the potential that medication holds for treating this disease and why it's underused.
Nearly 30 million Americans struggle with alcohol addiction, and the problem has steadily gotten worse, accelerating since the pandemic began. Yet less than 5% of people reported getting treatment of any kind. But drugs used to treat alcohol use disorder have been on the market for decades, and more are currently being studied. Dr. Sarah Wakeman runs the Substance Use Disorder Initiative at Massachusetts General Hospital Brigham. Thank you so much, Dr. Wakeman, for joining us. First of all, let's talk about how the medical community defines alcohol use disorder, and also what have the trend lines been? Has the problem gotten more prevalent since the pandemic began?
The definition of alcohol use disorder is compulsively using alcohol despite problems. And so those can be problems in your life, like in your relationships or your ability to work or carry out your functions, or in your health. So continuing to use alcohol despite known health, either mental or physical health problems that are exacerbated by use. So like many health conditions and many areas of substance use disorder, we've seen worsening trends since the onset of the pandemic. And this is true both for heavy drinking and also alcohol use disorder and health conditions related to alcohol use. One of the most scary trends we've seen actually soon after the pandemic hit, we saw an increase in alcohol-related mortality, which was largely driven by liver disease or liver failure from heavy alcohol use.
And people might not be so aware that medication is available to address alcohol use disorder. How has medication been used historically in the United States?
It's vastly underutilized. So you talked about in your opening, we have millions of people who meet criteria for alcohol use disorder. Fewer than 8% really access treatment in a given year. And of those, less than 2% of people access treatment with medications. And there's lots of reasons for that, but it is one area of medicine that really doesn't make its way to people who need it most.
Can you tell us about the drugs that are already available to treat alcohol use disorder, and why aren't they prescribed more readily here?
So there are 3 FDA-approved medications available in the U.S. for treatment of alcohol use disorder. There's also other medications that are off-label or not officially approved for that indication, but are very effective. And these medicines, for the most part, work by reducing the urge to want to drink and the pleasurable feedback that you get from drinking. And so they can be really powerful and have been shown to help reduce heavy drinking days and also to improve the likelihood that someone can achieve abstinence, meaning not drinking at all. I think many people aren't even aware that there are medications they could ask their doctor for, or that could be a part of their treatment. And we have to remember, as a society, for more than 100 years, we've really carved addiction out as something separate from the rest of our healthcare system, or somehow different than the rest of medical care and medical conditions that we treat. And so there's been this idea that addiction, although we sometimes say it's an illness, many of our policies and our clinical procedures really approach it like it's an issue of morality or willpower. And so really undoing that ideology, those general stigmatizing notions, is really important to bring addiction back into the medical system, back into medical training, so that doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals feel comfortable addressing this and offer medication treatment just like they would for depression or diabetes or heart disease.
What about elsewhere in the developed world? How is medication used in other parts of the world?
Medication is used much more commonly, for example, in Europe, where there's even a method of using medication as needed to reduce heavy drinking. So if you know that when you go to a cocktail party or around holidays or during times of stress, you're more likely to drink heavily or at a level above what you want to be drinking for your health or life goals, you can actually take a medicine before that, and it's been shown to help reduce heavy drinking.
There's been increased attention on diabetes drugs like Ozempic, that they have been shown to reduce symptoms of alcohol use disorder. What is the potential there, and also what are some concerns around the use of these drugs for that purpose?
I think it's really exciting. We obviously need to utilize the medications we have in existence, but we always need more innovation and better medication and more options for patients. The early studies, both sort of anecdotes about people who've taken these medications and found that their craving or urge to want to drink have diminished, are really promising. There's also some animal studies in mice showing reduction in alcohol use and alcohol-seeking behaviors. Obviously, there need to be clinical trials that show that this is effective and that it gets to the right clinical endpoints, and that would require funding and research. And so usually that takes on the order of years for those kind of approvals to happen. I think that can sound like a long time, but in the meantime, we have effective medications that exist that are easy to prescribe, that any doctor can prescribe. And so really encouraging people who are listening, if you're struggling, if a family member is struggling, you could talk to your doctor. This could be one component of lots of different types of treatments that are available for alcohol use disorder.
And lastly, let's talk about when should someone reach out for help seeking treatment or otherwise addressing an alcohol use disorder?
I think if you're worried about your alcohol use, if someone in your life is worried about it, those are probably the two best predictors. If you're having health-related consequences from your alcohol use, like liver problems, even feeling hungover, having any times like a blackout, you don't remember what happened, those are all really worrisome symptoms that alcohol is playing a role in your life that could begin causing problems. I think many people don't know about the lower level drinking limits that we think of when we talk about lower risk drinking. It's really no more than 7 drinks a week for a woman or anyone over 65, and no more than 14 drinks a week for a man who's under 65. I think if you try to make changes to your alcohol use to get it to a healthier level and you find it's hard to cut back or hard to make changes, that sometimes can be an indication that things may have gotten out of your control. And it's never a wrong thing to talk to someone or ask for help, because the earlier we can provide support, the earlier we can intervene, the better someone will do.
Dr. Sarah Wakeman with Massachusetts General Hospital Brigham, thank you so much for talking about this important issue.
Thanks for having me.
It's Monday, January the 20th. The year is 2025. It's a beautiful Monday morning. It's Martin Luther King's birthday today. I don't know if it's today. Is his birthday today? Well, it's the holiday today. And Donald Trump takes the White House. Donald Trump heads back to the White House. That's not what this video is about. Because Donald Trump heading to the White House can lead you to drinking. So, why? You know, I hope you all watched those 2 news videos I found that talk about these medicines that will help stop you from drinking. And many of us have never heard of these medications before. Many doctors have never prescribed these medications. And these medications have been around for decades. Why are they not being used to help people who have drinking problems? Why aren't they? Why don't we see commercials on TV like we see other medications? I've never seen a commercial on TV for these medications. I've never heard of these medications. And let me tell you, I think we all know why. There's the drinking industry. Drinking liquor and alcohol, it's a multi-gazillion dollar industry. Everybody drinks. A lot of people don't understand the horrible, terrible side of drinking, which I've seen in recent years, even with Earl in this hospital now. It's just like, this has been, Earl was told to stop drinking years ago, but nobody ever offered him this medication that I knew of. When they were saying you need to go into rehab, you need to do this, no one ever said, we can have a medication that can stop you from drinking and take the desire away from drinking. I've only heard about these medications in the past recent year or two, but another friend of mine took it. I definitely didn't know about this 10 years ago, and this medication's been around for decades. You also have one that's in a shot form. So why aren't these medications being pushed on people who suffer from alcoholism, who have drinking problems? They don't, the medical community, and in my opinion, I think the medical community may have conspired with the liquor industry to hide these medicines. They're not promoting them. They're not talking about them. I don't see no commercials on TV. I even went looking to see if I could find commercials. I couldn't find a single commercial for any of these medicines that will stop and take away your desire from drinking. I mean, you ride through our black communities, you see a liquor store everywhere. Multiple liquor stores and dialysis clinics. Dialysis is a big multi-billion-dollar industry. Liquor is a big one, and it has an impact on the black community. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine. I was telling her that the hospital where earlier there's a lot of black patients up there suffering from in this wing, and she's like, well, "Where the white people at?" And I'm thinking, I don't give a fuck about them white people, and where they at. I'm looking at black people laying up here suffering from this. Why would I be concerned about? All I see is black folks. I am black, y'all. I didn't see any of the untanned people in there laid up. Now I'm looking at all black people suffering from this shit. Hooked up to ventilators. They're called the liver something transplant part. It's a certain wing of the hospital. As a black man living in a black community, I don't have no sleepless nights worried about where the white folks at. White people might be more inclined to get treatment too for alcoholism. We look down when people say, "I'm not drinking anymore." Oh, you don't drink anymore? That's why I stopped going out to clubs, and I stopped going to parties, and I stopped going to events. I'm not a heavy drinker, I never have been. And people sometimes just get on my nerves. And if you tell somebody you really don't want them to drink and they still bring you a drink, and you're saying, "I don't want to drink," and they bring it to you any damn way, it's very disrespectful. So I learned the hard way. I never had a drinking problem, but I don't want no liquor. I'll pass. Y'all can have it, drink it, because I don't like what I'm seeing. It's just not for me. When the last few times I've had events here in my house with my family members, I tried to limit the alcohol. I'm gonna limit their asses coming over here, period. Try to limit the niggas is what I'm gonna do next time. Fuck that liquor. No niggas. Y'all figure it out on your own. Yeah, but I never knew these medications existed. And I think it's a shame because I think these medicines can offer people a lot of help and help them resolve their drinking issues and problems. I think these medications can probably work extremely well, and that might be the problem. Can you imagine if we were able to clean up the black community and get liquor out of our area and everybody had no desire for it and we could think straight? Violence would go down, the divorce rate would drop, people would be happy living normal lives. Do y'all really think they want that for us? Where the white people at? Busy conspiring against our asses. Where do you think they at? Come on now. Alcoholism causes severe problems in the black community. I've seen it with my family members. I've seen it with friends. And if we can eliminate that issue, and there's a medicine that will stop you from drinking and doing drugs, which is what these medicines do, imagine what we achieve. That's why we don't hear about these medications. That's why you don't see billboards for these medications in the black community. That's why you don't see commercials. That's why you don't see rap stars holding up this medicine. That's why you don't see none of the above. And you won't. We're never going to hear about it. This might be the first time some of y'all hear about watching my video. I hope you watch those 2 news reports because they're long, but very important information there. From PBS News Channel, and then, Trump is trying to get rid of PBS, public right? He wants to do away with that. Keep them stupid Americans. Well, I would hope that you all, if you have a drinking problem, or you know someone with a drinking problem, there are medicines that work. I would strongly suggest you look into them and use them to save your life from that beast. Because that liquor is nothing but poison and it will kill you. So, you know, do your research, get help, try to get sober. This stuff is really, this liquor is pumped into the black community, into our clubs, our parties, our events. Liquor is everywhere. It used to be tobacco, now it's liquor everywhere. And it's causing severe harm. So think wisely. There's help out there. Go get it if this is a problem that you're having. And you know, I don't know what else to say. Well, I'm about to cook some breakfast. Today is Monday, January 20th. The year is 2025, and the sun is easing, slowly easing over here. It's like, oh, let me go into the sunlight, walk into the sun. Oh, I feel like a vampire. What? The sun? Anyway, let me get out of here. Today is Monday, January 20th. The year is 2025. I'm out. You all let me know what y'all thought about these medicines and why you have never heard of it and why we never heard of it and why it's not promoted in our communities. I can think of a couple of reasons why. There were a lot of reasons why. But anyway, I'm out. Monday, January 20th. The year is 2025. Enjoy this beautiful Monday. Happy Martin Luther King's birthday. And if you're watching the dreadful return of Donald Trump, no comment there. I'm out. Bye.